This narrative begins by shedding light on a rarely seen facet of law enforcement, the elaborate, high-stakes world of undercover police operations. Specifically, we will examine a case that delves into the chilling psychology of a person driven by avarice and a desperate desire for freedom. The core of this story revolves around a deeply unsettling scenario: a manipulative wife who attempts to hire someone to kill her husband. This is not a work of fiction, but a stark illustration of how extreme human desires can manifest into criminal intent, leading individuals down a path of calculated deception and ultimate downfall. The narrator frames this particular incident not merely as a crime report, but as a compelling psychological case study. It offers a window into the mind of someone contemplating, planning, and actively soliciting murder. We will analyze the progression of thought, the rationalizations, and the subtle cues that reveal a dangerous shift in moral boundaries. The case provides insights into the psychological pressures at play, both for the individual driven to such an extreme act and for the law enforcement professionals tasked with intercepting such dangerous intentions. It highlights the often hidden aspect of human motivation, particularly when confronted with overwhelming desire for personal gain or an escape from perceived confinement. This operation serves as a chilling example of law enforcement's proactive measures to prevent violence before it occurs. It demonstrates the intricate planning, precise execution, and psychological understanding required to infiltrate criminal plots and protect potential victims. The unfolding events will illustrate how carefully crafted scenarios are deployed to uncover genuine intent, distinguishing malicious planning from idle threats. The detailed examination of the wife's actions and statements will provide a comprehensive look at the various stages of criminal thought, from initial conception to active solicitation. It underscores a critical role of undercover work in identifying and neutralizing threats that might otherwise materialize into irreversible tragedies. The layers of deception, the calculated risks taken by both the perpetrator and law enforcement, create a narrative rich with tension and psychological depth. This story is a direct, unfiltered look at the dark side of human ambition and the meticulous strategies employed to counteract it. The stage was set for a meticulously planned police sting operation, designed to ascertain the true intent behind the wife's alarming overtures. This was not a reactive investigation to a crime already committed, but a proactive intervention aimed at preventing a potential murder. The initial intelligence had been compelling enough to warrant significant resources, culminating in the critical juncture of an undercover meeting between the manipulative wife and a specially trained detective. The scenes depicting this meeting were meticulously controlled, often taking place in a neutral, discreet location chosen by law enforcement to maximize surveillance and minimize risk. These locations could be a seemingly ordinary cafe, a nondescript hotel lobby, or even a vehicle equipped with hidden recording devices. The setting was designed to put the wife at ease, creating an environment where she would feel comfortable articulating her dark intentions without suspicion. The undercover detective, posing convincingly as a hitman, maintained a carefully calibrated demeanor, professional, taciturn, and entirely focused on the job at hand. Their objective was not to encourage or persuade, but to listen, to elicit specific details, and to confirm, beyond any doubt, the wife's genuine desire for her husband's demise. Every word, every gesture, every subtle nuance of her communication was meticulously recorded and observed, forming the bedrock of the prosecution's future case. During these carefully orchestrated interactions, the wife began to outline her motives, laying bare the driving forces behind her unthinkable proposition. Her primary impetus was financial gain. She spoke of a significant life insurance policy, substantial marital assets, or a desire to access accumulated wealth that was otherwise tied up or inaccessible to her. Her calculations were cold and pragmatic, focusing on the material benefits that her husband's death would unlock. She articulated a clear understanding of the financial landscape that would shift dramatically in her favor. This pursuit of monetary advantage was presented not as an unfortunate byproduct, but as a direct, powerful incentive, revealing a deep-seated avarice that overshadowed any moral compunction. The prospect of living a life of perceived luxury or financial security, free from the constraints of her current marital circumstances, appeared to be a significant driving force for her. Beyond the monetary incentive, she frequently articulated a profound desire for freedom. This was often described in terms of liberation from a marriage she perceived as restrictive, unhappy, or burdensome. She spoke of wanting to escape a situation that had become intolerable, seeking a new beginning unencumbered by her husband's presence. This yearning for personal liberty, however, was framed within the context of a permanent, violent solution, indicating a profound unwillingness or inability to pursue more conventional means of marital dissolution. The freedom she sought was absolute, complete, and devoid of the complications that would arise from a divorce. Her expressions of wanting out were not just about leaving a relationship. They were about erasing an entire chapter of her life through extreme means. This combination of financial aspiration and a desperate longing for unburdened autonomy painted a chilling picture of her internal state, revealing a mind that had rationalized murder as a viable, even desirable, solution to her personal dilemmas. As the meeting progressed, the wife moved from stating her motives to detailing the grim logistics of the plan. She began to specify methods for her husband's death, demonstrating a chilling level of forethought and planning. She discussed scenarios such as staging an accident, a method designed to avoid suspicion and mimic an unforeseen tragedy. Her suggestions might have included a stage fall, a car crash, or an apparent health crisis, all crafted to appear natural and avoid attracting police scrutiny. She displayed a cold calculation in discussing how to make the death seem accidental, indicating a clear understanding of forensic scrutiny and how to circumvent it. She also delved into logistics, discussing crucial elements such as the ideal location for the act, perhaps a remote area, a place where he frequently traveled alone, or even within their own home when specific conditions were met. Her consideration of location was strategic, aimed at minimizing witnesses and maximizing the chances of the accident theory holding up. Furthermore, she meticulously discussed the timing of the act, suggesting specific windows of opportunity, when her husband would be alone, when she would have a verifiable alibi, or when his death would cause the least suspicion. Her detailed planning suggested a prior contemplation of these factors, indicating that the idea had festered in her mind for a considerable period, evolving from a fleeting thought into a concrete, actionable plan. Every detail she provided, every question she asked, every instruction she gave, was meticulously documented by the undercover detective, building an irrefutable case against her. These meetings served as a critical juncture where her dangerous thoughts transitioned into concrete, legally actionable solicitation, providing law enforcement with the undeniable proof of her criminal intent. The chilling clarity with which she articulated these details demonstrated a profound commitment to her murderous scheme. With the initial intent established and the preliminary methods discussed, the undercover operation progressed into a more intricate and revealing phase, the negotiations and breakdown of the specifics. This was where the wife's true commitment to her murderous plan and her willingness to calculate its every detail became undeniably clear. These subsequent meetings with the undercover detective were not merely about reiterating her desire. They were about solidifying a criminal contract, where human life was a commodity and financial gain the ultimate prize. The primary focus of these discussions was, inevitably, the price. The wife meticulously negotiated price and details, often attempting to drive down the cost while ensuring the job was done precisely to her specifications. This cold, transactional approach underscored a profound moral detachment she exhibited. She might have haggled over the initial quoted sum, perhaps suggesting a payment structure tied to the successful outcome, or inquiring about discounts for specific methods. These financial discussions were dispassionate, revealing a woman who viewed her husband's life as a budgetary line item, beyond the monetary value. The negotiations delved into the minutiae of the plan, with the wife specifying how to ensure its absolute success and her complete exoneration. A paramount concern for the wife was how to ensure no suspicion falls back on her. She repeatedly emphasized the need for the death to appear accidental or, failing that, entirely disconnected from her. She might propose specific scenarios for the staged accident, detailing how to manipulate the scene to mimic a natural occurrence, such as a fall downstairs, a tragic drowning, or a medical emergency exacerbated by unseen foul play. She would have discussed the importance of leaving no trace of her involvement, no phone records, no financial links, no suspicious activity that could be traced back to her. Her mind was clearly preoccupied with insulating herself from any potential legal repercussions, revealing a meticulous, albeit twisted, attention to detail. This focus on personal impunity was a clear indicator of her calculated criminal intent. prioritizing her freedom over any human consideration. Furthermore, the wife meticulously outlined her preferred possible alibis. She detailed her intended movements on the day of the planned accident, carefully constructing a narrative that would place her far from the scene, with verifiable witnesses or activities. This could involve planning a trip out of town, scheduling an engagement with friends or family, or even arranging a seemingly innocent activity that would provide her with an ironclad defense. She might have discussed the need for these alibis to be completely unassailable, without any gaps or inconsistencies that could be exploited by investigators. Her forethought in crafting these deceptive alibis underscored her premeditation and her deep understanding of how criminal investigations typically unfold. This level of planning went far beyond a fleeting thought. It demonstrated a determined commitment to orchestrating a murder that would leave her ostensibly blameless. The negotiations also included extensive discussions about contingency plans. The wife inquired about alternative methods if the initial accident staging proved too difficult, or what would happen if unforeseen circumstances arose. She might have asked about backup plans for disposal of evidence, ways to handle potential witnesses, or how to communicate discreetly if the plan encountered unexpected hurdles. This revealed a mind that had played out numerous scenarios, anticipating potential problems, and seeking solutions to ensure the plan's ultimate success. Her questions were sharp and probing, indicating a genuine desire for a foolproof scheme, leaving no stone unturned in her pursuit of her husband's death. This comprehensive planning, focused on every conceivable pitfall, painted a chilling picture of her resolve. As these intense discussions unfolded over multiple meetings, a palpable tension built in the interactions. The wife's demeanor was a complex interplay of conflicting emotions, often fluctuating wildly. She would oscillate between moments of pronounced fear and fleeting bursts of overconfidence. At times, a tremor in her voice or a subtle change in her posture betrayed her underlying anxiety about the illegality of her actions and the grave consequences she faced. She might have expressed nervousness about the police, about getting caught, or about the irreversible nature of her decision. These moments of fear revealed the psychological pressure she was under, the moral tightrope she was walking. However, these periods of apprehension would often quickly give way to a chilling surge of overconfidence. She would adopt a more assertive tone, pressing for details, dismissing potential risks, and reaffirming her commitment to plan. This oscillation highlighted her internal struggle, revealing the stress and desperation that fueled her murderous plot. Her confidence often stemmed from a delusional belief that she could control every variable, that her carefully constructed plan was impenetrable, and that she would ultimately escape detection. This psychological seesaw provided crucial insight into her unstable state of mind, confirming her true criminal intent to the observing law enforcement officers. The meticulous detail she provided, her unwavering focus on financial gain and freedom, and her calculated efforts to avoid suspicion, all serve as irrefutable proof that this was not mere fantasy, but a cold, deliberate plan to commit murder. The series of meticulously recorded undercover meetings had moved far beyond mere suspicion, culminating in irrefutable evidence of the wife's intent to solicit murder. The detailed discussions regarding motives, methods, pricing, alibis, and contingency plans had left no ambiguity about her criminal resolve. This was not a tentative exploration of a dark fantasy. It was a cold, calculated attempt to orchestrate a homicide for personal gain. With the necessary proof meticulously gathered, the operation transitioned from information gathering to the critical phase of police intervention, setting the stage for the dramatic revelation of the sting. Behind the scenes, away from the wife perception, the law enforcement team had been working with synchronized precision. Every conversation with the undercover detective, every proposed detail, every fluctuation in her demeanor was carefully documented, analyzed, and integrated into a comprehensive operational plan. Senior detectives and prosecutors reviewed the mounting evidence, confirming that the threshold for intervention had been decisively met. The objective was no longer to gather more proof of intent, but to prevent a potential tragedy and to apprehend the individual before any harm could come to her unsuspecting husband. This required a delicate balance, allowing the plan to mature enough to be legally actionable while intervening before it could possibly be enacted. The critical moment arrived when the dialogue cuts to the point where detectives signal the plan is finalized. This was often a prearranged phrase or code word exchange between the undercover officer and their surveillance team, a subtle but definitive indicator that all necessary elements of the solicitation had been secured. It signified that the wife had committed fully to the murder plot, had provided sufficient detail, and had articulated a clear understanding of the agreement. This verbal cue, often delivered in a seemingly innocuous part of the conversation, activated the next phase of the police operation. It meant that the hitman had received enough specific instructions and confirmation from the wife to proceed, thereby solidifying the legal grounds for her arrest for solicitation of murder. The details she had provided, from the method of death to the timing and her alibi, were now a concrete, actionable plan in her mind and, crucially, in the eyes of the law. During what the wife believed was a final planning session, the undercover officer adeptly steered the conversation towards the decisive steps. The officer would set a specific time and place to enact the plan, creating a concrete schedule for the supposed murder. This precise scheduling was crucial not only for the operational logistics of the police, but also for reinforcing the wife's belief that the plot was moving forward towards execution. The officer might have discussed the exact day her husband would be taken care of, the window of time for the accident, or the final point of contact for confirmation. The wife, unaware of the trap closing in, would have confirmed these arrangements, perhaps expressing anticipation or relief that her long-desired outcome was finally within reach. She believed she was meticulously orchestrating her freedom and financial future, entirely oblivious to the fact that every word was solidifying her own downfall. However, concurrently and unknown to the wife, it was revealed to the viewer that police were preparing to intervene. This narrative device creates a heightened sense of dramatic irony for the audience. While the wife believed she was entering the final stages of her dark conspiracy, the viewer understood that law enforcement was poised for a decisive strike. This preparation involved multiple tactical units, including plainclothes detectives, surveillance teams, and possibly uniformed officers on standby. They would have been meticulously briefed on the wife's identity, her vehicle, and the designated location for the intervention. The goal was to execute precise, controlled arrests that minimize risk and maximize the collection of any additional evidence. Teams would be positioned discreetly, maintaining surveillance on the meeting location and tracking the wife's movements. This comprehensive logistical planning underscored the gravity of the situation and the methodical approach of law enforcement in preventing a violent crime. The dramatic tension for the audience was palpable, witnessing the perpetrator unknowingly walk directly into the carefully constructed net, while the police were simultaneously taking every precaution to ensure a safe and successful operation. The final stage of the sting, the dramatic unveiling, was now only moments away. The meticulously constructed charade, carefully maintained by law enforcement, was about to be dismantled, replaced by the stark, undeniable reality of a criminal enterprise brought to light. The wife, having meticulously orchestrated what she believed to be her path to financial freedom and personal liberation through murder, was utterly unaware that she was walking directly into a well-laid trap. The undercover operation, which had for so long played into her darkest desires, reached its inevitable and dramatic climax with the confrontation and warning. The moment of truth arrived with disarming swiftness. As the wife finalized the last details of her husband's planned demise, perhaps even feeling a sense of triumph, detectives moved in to confront her. This was executed with precision and professionalism, ensuring her safety and the integrity of the evidence. There was no room for negotiation or further deception. The game was over. The officers, typically in plain clothes to maintain a degree of psychological control, identified themselves clearly as law enforcement. The weight of their authority, combined with the suddenness of the revelation, was designed to create an immediate and profound impact. The wife, who moments before had been confident in her criminal venture, was now faced with the complete unraveling of her carefully constructed reality. The sting operation, her meticulously planned murder for hire, was revealed to her in its full, devastating scope. The hitman she had so readily entrusted with her husband's life was, in fact, a police officer, tasked with preventing the very crime she sought to commit. The immediate reaction from the wife was precisely as anticipated by the seasoned detectives. Profound shock. Her carefully composed facade crumbled instantly. Her eyes, which moments before might have held a calculating gleam, now widened in disbelief and a dawning horror. The realization that she'd been playing a dangerous game, not with criminal underworld figure, but with the very law she sought to evade, was a devastating blow. This shock was quickly followed by an outpouring of regret. Not necessarily regret for her murderous intent, but regret for having been caught, for having so thoroughly misjudged the situation. She might have expressed remorse for the circumstances she found herself in, rather than for the harm she intended. This regret was often intertwined with frantic attempts to justify her actions. She might have launched into a desperate narrative of marital unhappiness, financial desperation, or perceived mistreatment by her husband, attempting to rationalize her unforgivable choices. These justifications were not acts of genuine remorse, but rather a self-serving attempt to mitigate her culpability in the face of imminent legal consequences. Her explanations, often rambling and contradictory, further solidified the prosecution's case by revealing her thought processes and her efforts to deflect blame. The detectives, maintaining their neutral and professional demeanor, allowed her to speak, collecting every word as additional evidence of her criminal mindset. Following the initial shock and attempted justifications, the detectives transitioned to a critical advisory role. They made it explicitly clear that her actions carried severe consequences, not just moral, but legal. They advised viewers on the legal consequences she faced, explaining that solicitation of murder is a gravely serious felony, carrying substantial prison sentences, regardless of whether the planned act was carried out. This served as a stark reminder of the gravity of contemplating such a crime. Beyond the legal ramifications, the detectives used the opportunity to highlight behavioral red flags they observed throughout the operation. They pointed out her meticulous planning, her unwavering focus on financial gain, her attempts to secure airtight alibis, and her cold, transactional approach to human life. These observations provided a chilling insight into the criminal mind, demonstrating how calculated intent can manifest through seemingly minor details in conversation and planning. The confrontation was not just an arrest. It was an educational moment, revealing the intricate dance between criminal intent and law enforcement intervention. The dramatic inclusion of the undercover operation provided not only a successful criminal interdiction, but also a rare and invaluable opportunity for a deeper psychological analysis of the wife's behavior. This case study transcends a simple narrative of crime and punishment. It offers a compelling look into the complex interplay of human motivation, rationalization, and the chilling mechanisms of criminal thought. The narrator provides a meticulous breakdown of the wife's behavior, dissecting the various psychological components that led her to solicit murder. Central to this analysis was her profound manipulation. She exhibited a sophisticated ability to deceive, not only the undercover detective, but also, presumably, her husband and those in her social circle. Her interactions were characterized by a calculated crafting of narratives, an ability to feign emotions or intentions, and a skill in steering conversations towards her desired outcome. She played a role, maintaining a facade of normalcy while harboring murderous intent. This manipulation was not impulsive. It was a deliberate strategy to achieve her objectives, revealing a personality capable of profound duplicity. A key aspect of her psychological profile was how she rationalized murder. Individuals contemplating such heinous acts often employ intricate psychological defense mechanisms to justify their intentions, transforming an unspeakable crime into a logical or even necessary solution in their own minds. The wife likely convinced herself that her husband's death was a means to an end, a way to escape an intolerable situation or secure a desired future. She may have dehumanized him or minimized the moral gravity of her actions, viewing it as a transaction rather than an act of violence against a human being. This rationalization allowed her to bridge the cognitive dissonance between her ordinary life and her extraordinary criminal plot, enabling her to pursue murder without internal moral collapse. The analysis explored the narrative she constructed for herself to justify her actions, perhaps painting herself as a victim of circumstances, thereby excusing her decision to become a perpetrator. Furthermore, the case offers a rare glimpse into how police detectives use specific questioning techniques during the undercover meetings. The detective's role was not to lead or suggest, but to create an environment where the wife felt compelled to provide incriminating details of her own volition. This involved active listening, open-ended questions that encouraged elaboration, and strategic silences that prompted her to fill the void with more information. They employed tactics to assess her genuine intent, such as subtly introducing obstacles or risks to see if she will recoil or press forward. These techniques were designed to peel back layers of superficiality, exposing her underlying criminal resolve and ensuring that her solicitation was unequivocal. The goal was to elicit, not to implant, her murderous plan, making her a willing participant in the evidentiary process. The analysis distilled several crucial key lessons from this case. First, it highlighted the importance of recognizing signs of criminal intent. While the wife's actions were extreme, the case demonstrated that criminal plans often involve a progression of thought and behavior that can sometimes be discerned. It underscored the meticulous methods used in undercover policing, showcasing the precision, psychological insight, and ethical considerations inherent in such operations. It illustrated how law enforcement constructs controlled environments to gather undeniable proof of criminal intent, acting as a preventative force against grave crimes. Finally, the case provided insight into psychological pressure tactics often employed by individuals attempting to solicit crimes, and inversely, how law enforcement can apply subtle pressure to elicit genuine confessions or plans without coercion. This multi-layered analysis offered a comprehensive educational takeaway, extending beyond the sensational details of the crime to illuminate broader principles of criminal psychology and effective law enforcement. Closing reflection: greed, consequences, and vigilance. The story of a wife driven to solicit murder for hire serves as a profound and cautionary narrative, offering critical insights into the destructive power of unchecked desires and the intricate strategies employed by law enforcement to safeguard society. The video concludes with a comprehensive moral reflection on greed, consequences, and law enforcement strategies, tying together the various threads of this complex case. The narrative underscores the corrosive nature of greed, illustrating how an insatiable desire for financial gain and personal freedom can override moral boundaries, leading individuals to contemplate and actively pursue unspeakable acts. The wife's actions were a stark example of how avarice can blind a person to the value of human life and the sanctity of relationships, ultimately leading to a profound moral degradation. Her pursuit of wealth and an unencumbered future came at the ultimate cost: the potential murder of her husband and the complete destruction of her own life through legal repercussions. The case stands as a chilling reminder that the pursuit of material gain, when unmoored from ethical considerations, can lead to the darkest of intentions. The story also offers a powerful meditation on consequences. For the wife, her calculated plan to commit murder resulted not in the freedom and wealth she craved, but in her exposure, arrest, and inevitable legal judgment. Her actions, intended to secure her future, instead led to its complete unraveling, culminating in a future defined by legal battles and potential incarceration. This serves as a clear illustration that criminal intent, even when not fully executed, carries significant legal ramifications, and that the justice system is designed to intercept and penalize such dangerous planning. The meticulous work of law enforcement ensured that her intentions had profound and undeniable consequences, preventing a tragic outcome and holding her accountable for her criminal designs. Furthermore, the narrative highlights the sophistication and necessity of law enforcement strategies, particularly in the realm of preventative undercover operations. The case demonstrates the effectiveness of sting operations in identifying individuals who pose a serious threat to public safety, allowing police to intervene before violence occurs. It showcases a careful balance between gathering sufficient evidence for prosecution and ensuring the safety of potential victims. The ability of detectives to elicit genuine intent through psychological acumen and meticulous planning is a testament to the complex and vital role of modern policing in crime prevention. While the specific circumstances of this case are extreme, the underlying psychological patterns of manipulation, rationalization, and escalating intent can sometimes manifest in less dramatic forms. It encourages vigilance and an awareness of individuals who exhibit an unusual obsession with control, material gain, or an extreme disregard for the well-being of others. More broadly, the conclusion emphasizes the crucial understanding of how confessions or plans can be elicited under pressure by law enforcement. This does not imply coercion, but rather the strategic creation of an environment where an individual already harboring criminal intent feels compelled to articulate their plans, thereby providing undeniable evidence against themselves. This nuanced understanding of police tactics underscores the rigor and ethical frameworks within which such sensitive operations are conducted. Ultimately, This case serves as a sobering reminder of the depths of human depravity driven by greed, but also as a compelling testament to the meticulous and often unseen work of law enforcement in protecting potential victims and upholding the sanctity of human life. The story leaves a lasting impression, urging a heightened awareness of the psychological complexities that can lead to criminal intent and reinforcing the critical role of vigilance in maintaining societal safety.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more.